Hello, I'm Julian Clover, and today we're joined by Stuart Griffin to talk about smart homes and the role of the broadband router within it. Hello, Stuart.
Hi, Julian. It's great to be here.
Well, thanks for joining us. Look, how good a job is the broadband router making of handling the smart home right now?
Um, I wouldn't say it's got a huge role right now. I think there's tremendous potential, but when you look at the smart home and the role that the router's playing, it's providing that connectivity, but it's not really doing a great deal beyond that. We do see some pioneers out there. We do see, for instance, Comcast with their X Home initiative that have added quite a lot of functionality, and I think they're really showing the way. And we do hear that more and more of the operators are adding Zigbee and other smart home functionality, but there still seems to be a lot of unlocked potential.
So you're looking at a world then where the router is gradually going to evolve. Of course, we've seen it evolve anyway over the past 10, 15 years from something that just brings in broadband to something that distributes over Wi-Fi around the home, and increasingly systems which allow to sort of reach into those corners of the house which maybe might have been a black spot otherwise. So are we going to see maybe different layers? If you're subscribing to the basic service, you maybe end up with the kind of router you're getting now. But maybe if you're going for the top speeds, you'll be given a much faster, powerful router, which not only delivers the Wi-Fi, but it is capable of a little bit more on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the moment, the router, occupies that unique place in the home work, and it is playing a role in the home network. I mean, a lot of smart homes are using Wi-Fi, but it's pretty much a fixed function device. It's updated maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a year, and these are very powerful devices, and they could be doing a bit more. And the future that we see, and that actually, a lot of people are working towards, not just us, but some really important organizations as well, is where, as you say, like an extra layer is introduced into the device, a bit like when mobile phones moved from being fixed function devices with your Nokia to smartphones, where we had applications. But we're not really talking applications in the sense that you would imagine on your phone with a user interface. We're talking about just having a piece of intelligence that's on the router that means that extra services can be delivered by that router, or existing services can be enhanced, and a lot of those services could be around the smart home. And one of the great benefits of this is you could start to think, to eliminate some of those boxes that you plug into your router. I don't know if you've got a Hive system or a Hue lighting system, and recently I had a smart charger installed at my house for an electric vehicle, and I got another box plugged into my router that was talking to that, no doubt over Zigbee. And a lot of
I've
these
got a
things.
growing collection, which is well, I'm running out of sockets in order to put some of the things in. So the idea is that there would be deals done, if you like, or maybe standards agreed upon that would enable the technology, say from the heating system. You mentioned Hive there. They would go into the router, or the router would be ready for them in order to deliver those services when the customer chose to install them.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. The idea is that these things like Hive, that these boxes could be virtualized and downloaded to the router. And the key enablers for that are standardization. Someone like Hive, someone like Zappy, they only want to write this application once. Then they want to be able to download it to different routers, or have it downloaded to different routers to provide that functionality to the customer, eliminate that little extra box that no one particularly wants, and get the same experience.
I
But
guess these guys, they're not really in the hardware business, are they? They're in the service business. They want to help people heat their homes for the sake of argument. And so in order to do that, the box right now is just a means of doing that.
absolutely, it's completely a means to an end. If there was a standard alternative, I'm sure they'd leap on it. And I mean, one of the areas that needs to be worked through as part of this is the commercial model. And I think there's opportunities on both sides for operators that can help enable, give access to a lot of customers and get involved in these services, get involved in, perhaps even harmonizing some of these services so they work together. and also for the smart home companies themselves, having an easier, lower friction way of delivering their services and lower cost, because you've eliminated a piece of hardware.
Some operators are doing deals. They're distributing hardware from the likes of Airties or Plume. What kind of role do you think those sorts of companies will play? Will they continue to have their little add-on boxes, or will they perhaps find their technology also incorporated into the router?
That's a great question, and I think actually the smart router is a huge opportunity for companies like Airties and Plumes. I mean, smart Wi-Fi has still got a long way to go, in my opinion. The small boxes that they distribute around the home to get that mesh, they're not going anywhere. We're still going to need them to get the coverage. But the smarts that are also a key part, and one thing many people may not realize, but when you have a router that's been Plume enabled, there's a piece of important software, OpenSync, that's running on the router to enable that. But at the moment, that's a custom integration. The Plume have to work with the router manufacturer, with the operator, get that intelligence enabled on the router. It takes a long time. If you move to the smart router, where that's a downloadable component, becomes a lot easier for people like that to start distributing smart Wi-Fi and letting more people get the benefit of that capability.
And what about things like latency? Because obviously, if we want a light bulb to be switched on, we want it to stay on, and we want to issue our instruction to our Alexa or whatever device it might be, and have that happen straight away. We don't wait 10 seconds for a whole load of toing and froing in the cloud to happen.
No, I mean, at the moment, people that are delivering smart services or even actually doing distributed audio in the home, they don't have access to the router. But the router is a great place to reduce latency and also introduce a little bit of autonomy. Now, if you consider audio distribution, if you knew exactly when every packet was arriving at the router over Wi-Fi, you can make those adjustments and you can get that whole home audio experience in a lot simpler way.
So people like, for example, Sonos, or even an Alexa Sonos integration, which with so many devices having to talk to each other, just adds a little bit more complexity to it all.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be an interesting scenario in the future where you start seeing, potentially multiple apps can be downloaded to a smart router and start cooperating, to give you even more functionality. And I think it's quite an exciting future as to how these things will work together.
And the security aspect of it all, because a lot of these things, be it I don't know if your account with the heating company, and boy, is that valuable these days, or maybe your music account with Spotify, they all need passwords. You need them and everything else around the home to be safe. You don't want your music service password being able to let some hacker get in to find the details of your bank account.
Now, I mean, the technology that's being developed has really had security at its core. It's built on a technology called containerization, which means every application that's running on the router sits within its own sandbox container. It's isolated from the other applications and very secure. And actually, security itself is a real opportunity here. I mean, at the moment, the home router is really, it plays an incredibly important role in providing our internet security. It's the home firewall, but actually there's a lot more it could do. And we see this with some services out there. We can start doing active monitoring of the network, spotting compromised equipment on your network and quarantine it. And I think the smart router could be really enhance home security or home internet cybersecurity.
And is now the moment for the operator and the smart home to come together? There's been so many false dawns. I remember, I think the best part of 20 years ago, France Telecom, which kind of almost proves my point for me, producing this diagram of how they'd be able to run this and run that, and it's never actually happened. So the technology you've been talking about today, is that what's going to enable the smart home and all of the possibly hundreds of services around that to actually happen at last?
I think now is the time. I mean, for me, the key to this, the key that unlocks this, the key that makes everyone's business model work is the standardization. It's having a standard way of doing it. It'll give people, companies, the confidence to invest. And the key players, Purple and RDK, who have the most popular stacks running on routers today. They're talking to each other. They're working on a standard. They're developing POCs. So we can see real momentum towards getting towards that standard approach. It's not quite there yet, but it's coming.
Well, Stuart, thank you very much for your time today, and thanks to everyone for watching as well.